Hi guys, welcome to episode 5, which is going to be on multi-step equations. So this is going to refer to lesson 3.2, so chapter 3, lesson 2. So in this episode, we're going to learn and review how to combine like terms to solve multi-step equations. So this is going to be really important to remember how to simplify expressions by combining like terms. That's going to help us solve multi-step equations. We're also going to use the distributive property to solve multi-step equations, so that distributive property is not leaving us anytime soon. And then we're going to learn how to isolate the variable in multi-step equations. Sorry this episode is being posted a little bit late for my period 2 people. I'm recording this actually at my home. So with that said, we have our first multi-step equation. And so looking at this equation, I have 7 parentheses 3 minus x equals negative 21. And so my goal for this equation is that I want to isolate my variable. So I want to get x by itself. So when I look at this equation, what property do you see being used in this equation? Well, I see the distributive property. I know that I can multiply by 7 by my 3 and then my 7 by my x. So this 7 outside of this parentheses means that I am multiplying this 7 by both terms inside of my parentheses. So what will the equation look like when I use the distributive property? So what will the left side of my equation now look like? Well, I can do 7 times 3 and then do 7 times x, and then I'm going to subtract them because there's a subtraction sign here. So 7 times 3 is 21, 7 times x is 7x. So now the left side of my equation will be 21 minus 7x. So now, if I want to solve this equation, I now have a 2-step equation to solve. So once I've done my distributive property, this will look like what we've been doing in class. And so now I have 2 things happening to x. X is being multiplied by 7, and then I have this 21 here. And so I need to decide what I want to get rid of first. So I want to get rid of my 21 first, because then I'm just going to be left with 7x, and then I have essentially a single-step equation. So if I want to get rid of my 21, I need to take away 21 or subtract 21. So I'm going to subtract 21 from the left side of my equation because now that's going to make 0. And then once I do that to one side of my equation, I need to do the same thing to the other side of my equation. Sorry, that's a little bit blurry. So then I subtract 21 from the other side of my equation. And so now when I think about negative 21, minus negative 21, let me just zoom all the way out. I know that I have 2 negatives, and so I have a negative minus a negative. So when I have negative 21 minus negative 21, I know that I'm going to need to add them together to get 42, and my answer is going to be negative. So now, on the left side of my equation, I have a minus 7x, and on the right side of my equation, I have negative 42. So now I have a single-step equation here. And so if I want to get rid of my negative 7, I think, well, what operation is happening here? I'm multiplying. So to get rid of it, I'm going to divide. Now I'm going to choose to divide by a negative 7 because then this whole thing is going to cancel out, and I'm going to be left with x. So then I need to divide by negative 7 on my right side of my equation to keep it balanced. So negative 42 divided by negative 7 will be a positive 6. So x equals 6. If I want to make sure that I got this correct, I'm going to plug it in to my equation. So I'm going to do 21 minus 7 times 6 and make sure it equals negative 21. So order of operations, I need to do my multiplication first. So 7 times 6 is 42. 21 minus 42, I know my answer is going to be negative because 42 is greater than 21. And my answer will be negative 21, which is what I needed. So that means my answer is correct. Okay, so let's do another equation. So our next example is going to be here. So a little bit trickier. So we have 5x minus 2, parentheses x minus 1 equals 8. So this is a multi-step equation because I look at this equation and I see lots of things going on. So my goal is still to isolate the variables. So my goal is to solve for x. But when I look at this equation, I see 2 variables. I see x here and I see x here. But that's okay because these are going to be like terms eventually because x and x are the same variable, which means they're going to be the same number. So those are going to be like terms. So I want to simplify the left side of my equation, meaning I want to simplify this expression to solve for x. So I'm going to ignore my equals 8. So I'm just going to focus on my left side of my equation. So what are we going to do to simplify first? So what do I need to do here first? Well, in looking at this, I know that I'm going to need to use my distributive property first. So I need to multiply 2 by x and 2 by 1. Now we look and we see that there's a minus in front of this 2. So my recommendation is to take the minus with the 2 to make it negative 2 times x and then negative 2 times 1. Because if I don't remember to do it here, I might forget about it. So then technically this is a 5x plus and negative 2 times x minus 1. So here I showed my distributive property. So again, I did negative 2 times x minus negative 2 times 1. So this will make negative 2x minus negative 2. And a negative make a positive. So this will now become negative 2x plus 2. So now our equation is 5x minus 2x plus 2 equals 8. And so now I look at my left side of my equation and I realize that there is still something that I can do. So what do you think we need to do next? Well, in looking at my left side of my expression, I see like terms that I can combine. So I see a 5x and a 2x. And since we have a subtraction between them, I'm going to do 5 minus 2 and get 3 and then bring my x with it. So 5x minus 2x is 3x. And then I have my plus 2 equals 8. So now this will look like our two-step equations that we've been solving. So now I have 3x plus 2 on the left side equals 8. And so I need to choose, I want to get x by itself. So if I want to get x by itself, right now it's being multiplied by 3 and I'm adding 2 to it. Sorry, that's blurry. And so I want to get rid of my plus 2 first to make this 3x. And so to get rid of my plus 2, I think what is the opposite or the inverse of adding 2? Well, that's going to be subtracting 2 because 2 minus 2 makes 0. But to keep the equation balanced, I also need to subtract 2 from the right side of my equation. So now on my left side, I have 3x, and on the right side, I now have 6. So now 3x equals 6. I know that 3 times 2 gives me 6, so I know that x will equal 2. If I want to show my work, I would divide both sides of my equation by 3, because the opposite of multiplying by 3 is dividing by 3. So these will cancel out and make x equals 2. So if I want to plug this into my equation and make sure that this is true, I would do 5 times 2 minus 2 times 2 plus 2 and make sure that equals 8. So 5 times 2 is 10 minus 2 times 2 is 4. So I do my multiplication before my subtraction and addition. So then I have 10 minus 4 equals 6 plus 2 equals 8, which is exactly what I wanted to get, which means my answer is correct. Okay, thank y'all so much for watching this video. Remember that you'll have a short do first quiz over this episode, and thanks for listening.